Hello. Compost is going to be one of the most talked about issues in the next couple of years. It's going to cause a lot of controversy. The price is going to skyrocket. It's not looking good. Now, like many gardeners, I've made my own compost for decades now, and it's a natural progression. You have waste at the end of the season, you need to put it somewhere, pile it all up, turns into compost, and you can use it on the garden. But to me, it's never made enough, never has. So I've always needed to supplement it with bagged compost, and in general, what I've used that for is for getting new plants going in the start of the year, or for me, any time of the year. But that presents a problem moving forward, because although the last sort of decade peat-free composts have come in and they're reasonable, the general mainstay and the cheaper composts have all been peat-based, which, as we know, are being phased out over the next couple of years. And this is where the problems are coming in. I've been doing some trials on some peat-free composts, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not wholly impressed. The average price for a decent bag of peat-based compost is about £6, and it'll do a reasonable job. But the peat-free composts, the ones that are of the same price, they're hopeless. They're just green waste compost, and they're not very good at all. But if you pay £12 a bag for it, it is good compost. So there's your first problem, is the price of compost, bag compost, is going to double in price in the next couple of years. So over the last couple of years, I've been speaking to people like at nurseries or garden centres where they make and use their own plants, and they're basically saying the same thing, that if you buy the £6 a bag peat-free compost, you are just buying green waste, and you can get that cheaper elsewhere. But it's also not that good for getting plants started, getting them going, and it is because people put plastic in their green waste, full of plastic and bits of metal and glass and things, and they're generally not screened before you get it. Say if you pay double the price, £12 a bag, you will get a quality product, and you can work with it and you can use it. But for a gardener, say like myself, or a nursery or garden centre, or somebody doing no dig, it starts to become pricey. Now, I don't think those prices of £12 a bag are going to stay there for very long, because when peat is taken out of the system, people will be looking for replacements, and suddenly things like piles of manure that once were free will no longer be. You'll no longer be able to get a load of manure delivered for free because somebody wants to get rid of it. It suddenly becomes a saleable item, so that price goes up. And these compost companies who are perhaps getting it for free now and adding it to their compost have got to pay for it. That bag of compost, that price is going to go higher and higher and higher. And I think over recent years as well, people have taken to the gardens more, and they're growing their own produce at home. I think that demand is also going to increase that price. So we do have a problem that's sort of cloaked in a minute, and I think over the next couple of years there are going to be many solutions, many bad composts out there. I can just see it, I hope I'm wrong, but I can just see it becoming a massive, massive issue, and the price going through the roof for it. So making your own is going to be the way forward. And I used to make my own. I changed this. I had a lovely 3-base system here that worked wonderfully well, but then I took it out to make these 2 beds here, and I put in a temporary one where you saw me emptying the truck earlier. Eventually those pallets will rot away, and I'll make a proper one out of steel again, like I had here. But even so, that's still not going to fulfill all the compost needs I will need moving forward, although I'll make a blooming good effort at it. But anyway, we'll move on, and we'll go on to the next bit. So going forward over the next couple of years, there's going to be an enormous amount of compost videos and how to make it and how to use it coming up on YouTube from all the YouTube gardeners out there. And I do hope that everyone makes their own video or series of videos showing and getting that knowledge out there. The more knowledge we got out there, the more people we've got talking about this subject and this issue, I think the better we are for it. I watch hundreds over the years, and I'll continue to watch them. I've learned from my own things, from my own mistakes, and I even know the old-fashioned ways that my granddad taught me way back when, 50 blinking years ago. But they all come down to the same thing, that you're saving things that will just rot away, mixing them all together to a predefined recipe, should we say, allowing it to rot away and decompose, and then putting that back on your garden. So you're putting the goodness back into the garden. I've got a couple of examples here. I've got some sort of veg peelings here, and these are tea bags. Even tea bags you can't trust these days. They've got plastics in them, some of them now are changing and removing the plastics from them. But for now, what I do is sort of once a week or once every couple of days, I just empty the tea bags out. It takes a minute, but you can see that's a good pile there from just a couple of days, and that's all this is, kitchen waste from a couple of days here. But this will add to the bulk of my compost. They'll all get mixed up, they'll get disposed of, probably burnt. And in here we've got some other bits and bobs. I've got here this is ripped up loo rolls or kitchen roll inners. It's all cardboard. It will all rot down and it will add to the compost. I've just ripped them up and put them in. I'm leading to somewhere with this, so here we go. Again, bits of cardboard, again just ripped up. Just keep adding all this in. It's all natural products. It will all rot down and add to your compost. What I've also got here is some shredded paper. This is actually an old seed catalogue, a couple of pages at a time. Just rip them down, and you can add this to your compost. You see very quickly you've got a nice bulk of materials in there, but I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to go and add this now to something else. So I'll pile all this in here, because I want all this and more, and we'll take these off into the big tunnel. I'll show you what I'm going to do with them next. Right, so what I've got here now is I've got a pile of ingredients. There is no set recipe. You can make up your own, just add little bits of what you've got. Now, these are some dead plants I pulled out the other day. They're actually the remains of the Chinese cabbage, or some of them, and these are just getting ripped up and thrown in this truck. And I've also got, this is a bit of compost straight off my no dig beds. That can go in, that's life, that's from a living bed, so that will help with the compost. In here some rotting hay that's fairly old. I think that's off the top of my potato pot where I mulched them. Again, that's rotting, that's got some life in it. Chuck a bit of that in. Some leaves I've just collected this morning straight off the back of the plot there. Get those in as well. So you see very quickly you've got a bulk of stuff in here. This is grass clippings from cutting my lawn at home. They're about a week old. So again, they just want separating up and they're going in. Very quickly I've got a truck full there. It won't stay that big, it will rot down. So just mix them all up as best you can. And you're going to mix this is the sort of green matter really, with all of this as well. But I'm going to do this in a different way, and I want to talk about that as well, just to show you. But that's the main ingredients there. I think I've got all of it in. But I want to talk about this down here, so just change the camera. Right, so what I've got here is a common sort of supermarket delivery tray, and I sourced this responsibly. I asked for them and I got a pile of them that were broken or tossed out for various reasons. Brought them home, cleaned them up, and I've used them ever since. Bit more difficult to get hold of, but you can get hold of similar trays. And this is important because they've got holes all around them and on the bottom, and I'm seating it directly onto soil. I've leveled the soil underneath because I want to attract the life from the soil here in the polytunnel to come up through this. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to put layers of this stuff in. Again, I don't really want big clumps of grass in there because it just goes slimy. And I'm just going to fill this up, mix them up in here, and start a mini compost heap here in the polytunnel. Now, there's a lad here in the village called Stephen, the same as me. Stephen B, I'll say, I won't give his full name. They call him the compost man because he sells bagged compost derricks to all the people in the village, which has helped people enormously. And he showed this method. This is his idea of how to make compost on a small scale. And I think this is perfect. If you've got a small garden, you can make compost this way. When this is full, you add another tray on top and carry on the composting, add in the next layer. But the idea is great because you can move it. It's portable. You can move it to where you want. But the thing I think is really good, and eventually I will put one outside my back door for over winter, is on those cold and frosty days when there's ice on all your paths outside, or it's teeming down with rain and you've got some stuff for the compost heap, just chuck it in this tray straight outside your back door. And eventually when you get a nice day and you can get to your compost heap, take the whole tray and empty the whole lot. But I want to use this slightly differently. I want to attract worms into this over the winter period, and the reason for that is I've got that big pile of compost out in the outside on the plot there that's not going to do much over the winter. And when we get to some nice weather going into next year, I'm going to get a lot of brown material, so cardboard, straw and hay, mix it all up and compost it really quick using the Barclay method. The Barclay method is a method of making compost where if you turn it every 2 days, inside 20 days you've got a finished compost ready to go. It's composted, it's got superheated and it's worked really quickly, but then it really needs to mature, and that's when I'll be adding this mass, whatever I've got made here, however many trays there are, and hopefully there'll be lots of worms so they can get in there and get on with it really quickly and help to mature that compost for use as quick as possible. It's a test, it's a trial, I'm hoping it works. I've thought it through and I think it will, provided I can get worms into this. Then that will be the right step forward, and I shall keep feeding these. I used to be an angler, so I know that worms feed on things in preference, and you can encourage them to mate and breed in there by adding things like mashed potato before you've put butter or milk in there or whatever. Just plain mashed potato, or you can use porridge oats is another good one. You can add in there. So anyway, that's the plan with this. I'm going to keep this going, stack the trays up, and hopefully attract a lot of worms whilst also making a small amount of compost. So if you're making compost at home, this is a brilliant way you can do it over winter. And thanks to Steve for making the little video that I saw the other day about how to do this. So I think this is a brilliant idea. So as I say, I think compost is just going to get ridiculously expensive and difficult to source good supplies to make your own compost. There are many ways of doing it. You can grow cover crops, green manure. You can go and collect seaweed or leaves or manures from farmyards. But there's going to be a cost implication coming up with some of those, because more people are out searching for things to make their own compost. Wouldn't surprise me if all kinds of laws and things were invented, and I can just foresee many issues. I'm hoping there isn't, but anyway, sort of a call to arms really for all YouTubers, those YouTubers out there with their own channels making their own videos. Share your knowledge really, make some videos, show us how you make your compost. Get involved in the comments and with your thoughts and ideas on this new peat-free revolution that's going to be hitting us fairly fast. Let's get talking about it now, and let's get organising about how to do all these things before we actually need to do it. Let's be prepared, so to speak, and say the more that everyone can do now, I think the better we'll all be in the long run. I do think it's going to cause some problems. Hoping it doesn't. But I'm doing everything I can now. I will produce more videos of the different ways I know to make compost and the different materials and things you can use and how to make them. I still know some of the old ways, and I would love eventually to get organised enough to show you how my granddad used to do it, because that was perfect. But there you go, granddads always do perfect things, don't they? But you know, he was a good gardener. But anyway, I'm going to carry on ripping this up and into there, and I'll see you all very soon. Please stay safe, look after yourselves, and I'll see you all very, very soon.